Hello and welcome to my series of conversations with men and women whose ideas, vision and philosophy define our contemporary world. My guest today is indeed a man of many parts. He's combined a personal spiritual quest with leadership of the Central Bureau of Investigation, the CRPF. He investigated the murder of Rajiv Gandhi, and he was the Director General of the National Human Rights Commission. He's held many posts. He was a diplomat, posted in several countries overseas. I'm delighted to welcome dear Karthikeyan.
Thank you, it's my privilege.
The triumph, the pursuit of the truth. How has that reconciled itself with many of the jobs that you've held? And I really look at the pursuit of the truth, both sort of, the truth, what happened during the murder of Rajiv Gandhi, and the larger metaphysical truth, which is also a personal quest for you. In what senses do these tend to merge?
No, if you are wedded to truth at a personal level, you can't do anything which is untruthful in your life also. I mean, the fact is we are all human beings, no doubt. We do err sometimes, but then knowingly you don't do a wrong thing. And if you realize something has gone wrong, you have the courage to accept something has gone wrong, you take steps to correct it. So because of my faith and truth only will triumph. Truth is, identical with spirituality, God, divinity, whatever you may call it. And that's how we could stick to truth in the investigation of Rajiv Gandhi assassination case against all odds.
You see that as one of the sort of triumphs of your long and distinguished career?
I would say that that was a task given to me. I didn't ask for it because others in Delhi refused to take it because either the case cannot be detected, you will be condemned, and or if you detect it, some terrorist group will be after you, you will not have a normal life. So those wise men declined it, and then the government pleaded with me when I was in Hyderabad as IG of the Central Reserve Police Force. Then I thought it's a duty to the nation, the call of duty to the nation. I accepted it knowing very well it's a very, very difficult job and a dangerous assignment. But I believe in destiny, Everyone born has to die one day, and birth and death are not in our hands. The only thing is, by taking up a more dangerous job, you have added one more mode of dying.
So
how does it matter?
When you have the sense of destiny,
Yeah.
of your destiny to sort of handle the investigation, what sense of Rajiv Gandhi's destiny did you have when you were investigating this?
I admired him as a person. He was a remarkable person, and he knew me very well. He was fond of me. I had regret, regard and affection for me. If you look at the first chapter of my book, Triumph of Truth, that book contains, the investigation was nothing but truthful. I refused to oblige anybody, never bothered about, there were many attempts to derail the investigation, manipulate the investigation to suit their personal ends.
So what were the kind of manipulations that
I
people
said
may
no.
have
You
sought?
see, I accepted the investigation on the ground that I shall not allow any political interference in the investigation.
But what were the kind of manipulations that people might have been
everyone
interested
was
in?
interested in finding out who killed him. But in the process, they would like to involve also some opponent in opposition parties or within the same parties. Till then, they are not totally satisfied, many of them. That was a big disappointment to me to see paper. It was such an important case. A former prime minister, the most charismatic leader of the country at that time, was so brutally killed by a terrorist group. I thought everyone would be anxious to find out who killed him and bring those people to book. But I find in the process, even those who claimed to be his loyalists, they were more interested in using it to fix up people who are opposed to them in other parties or within the parties.
This was, under the umbrella. It was a special investigation force under the umbrella of the special
CBI.
investigation team, under the umbrella of the CBI.
Yeah.
And you'd also been, head of the CBI.
Yeah.
The CBI sort of is something that everybody runs to call upon and says there should be a CBI inquiry. At one time, there should be a judicial inquiry.
Yeah.
One would imagine that the CBI was this, this body of unimpeachable integrity, reputation, with a very high success rate, and they always get to the truth.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really happen. Why is that?
You see erosion in the credibility of all institutions in this country. You can't deny that. All institutions, I underline. After all, personnel working in the CBI, they have not come from the heavens. They are also from the same society. So the deterioration in the credibility, in ethics, morals, In other sections of society, I would say that unfortunately it has affected some people in the same way also. So there is, and people also believe that anyone in authority will be susceptible to political interference. But the fact remains that is the most credible organization available in this country for investigation of cases. It may not be perfect. It may not be. I won't say claim it's perfect and all decisions are acceptable to me also. But then that's the most credible institution you have got today.
In the Rajiv Gandhi investigation, I think one of the sort of things that earned you, a great deal of laurels and plaudit was that you actually managed to secure convictions. And one of the sort of major criticisms against the CBI is that they have a very low conviction rate.
Don't say managed to, managed to get the conviction. We presented the facts before the courts, unimpeachable evidence, documentary, circumstantial evidence, scientific evidence. The court was left with no choice but to convict them. And the highest court in the land, 3 senior judges heard the appeal for 3 long months. In no other case appeal, the Supreme Court has spent so much time. And they endorsed the entire investigation and also placed on record the appreciation of the investigation.
So in most cases, when I say managed to, the CBI doesn't manage to get
That's
convictions.
because in some cases what happens, when it's in the limelight, so much focus, then some other case comes up, they focus on that. The same amount of concentration is not there in pursuing the investigation after the charge sheet. During the trial also they must show the same involvement interest. That is not shown. That's how the courts fail. I mean, cases fail in the court. Apart from the fact there are inherent flaws in the laws. These laws under which we are functioning, created for a traditional society of 10 crore of people, created about 100 years back, except tinkering in some sections here and there, we have not really reformed the laws and the entire system of criminal justice. After all, under the same laws you see in Britain, the rate of conviction is 90%. Same laws basically, but then they have been anticipating the changes in the society. It's so much of change, now more modern, organized crime, terrorist crime. The terrorists and the criminals have access to all sorts of.
So give us an example of a conviction that you failed to get, where you knew you had the criminal locked in, your investigation was bang on, but the law let you down.
I can't really, because you are not giving me any notice. You have been suddenly called for this interview. You told me I would have got even case number, figures, and all these things. But there have been instances where we are morally convinced that the people are, the concerned are guilty, but due to legal loopholes, or the witnesses being bought over and intimidated, or because the trial happens after 15 years after the offence, the witnesses forget what happened, so they get the benefit of the loopholes in the system. There are many cases. I can't readily rule out any important case to you just now. If you had given me even 1 hour notice, I would have done it. You have taken me by surprise today.
You're watching a conversation with Dr. Karthikeyan. We'll be right back after a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to a continuing conversation with Dr. Karthikeyan. We were talking about conviction rates and the ability to convict the guilty. You're a person interested in the spiritual. What does this tell you about human nature? The fact that agencies such as the CBI need to exist, no matter what their success or failure might be. You spent a career in law enforcement, in chasing and convicting the guilty. Isn't there another way of doing it, the spiritual perhaps?
If I want a clear distinction between being religious and being spiritual. Being religious is also good, that is the basis where you start. But then it's more concerned with rituals and importance of your own practice and all that. When I say spiritual, it applies uniformly to every human being, all over. And that is, accepting certain universal values of validity in every society, in every time. Like being good, honest, truthful, and being compassionate, and not coveting someone's property, and not being corrupt. I must tell you, just few days before, when Swami Ranganathananda passed away recently, I had the privilege of calling on Swamiji at Belur Mat. At 97, he had just returned from a hospital after a major procedure. On a Thursday where he does not meet people, he was anxious to meet me. He was talking only about what is happening to there. Where are we going in this country? What was the vision of Swami Vivekananda? He said, accepting the stock market booming, what is the values? Why is so much of bitterness, conflicts, hatred, restlessness in the society everywhere? Why this charge of corruption practically against everyone, everywhere? People don't know whom to trust, whom not to trust. He said, it has brought back. He gave me 5 booklets to be sent to the rulers in this country. I promised to do that. I sent it to the top people in the governance. I got replies from them. Even the Prime Minister said that he will, at the earliest opportunity, will go through those booklets and wishing Swamiji speedy recovery. I sent a reply. He saw the reply all right, but then he entered the hospital. Unfortunately, Swamiji is no longer with us. Why should such a great spiritual personality, philosopher like Swami Ranganathananda, at 97, when his own personal health was hurting, get so concerned about the country? Obviously, it should bother everybody. What is happening in different parts of the country? Allegations are made against practically everyone in authority. And recently we have read about the money allotted for victims of floods in a particular state being misused by officers and others.
But in a sense, isn't that...
It is lack of concern. Is it lack of honesty, integrity? At the core of spirituality is integrity.
But isn't that, just the point that why have we become this way? And having said that, to also say that through millennia, I think every generation has really mourned its lack of spiritual values, have mourned the lack rather than the having of. That is the cycle of history. My question really was that in this atmosphere of despair, is the solution, the interventions that will redeem our society, to be limited to law enforcement, to going after the criminal? If there is another route, what is that route? How can it be cultivated? How can it be made possible? So instead of your job, which has been in that part of your life, and we'll come to some of the other things you're doing later with magazines and your spiritual quest, has really been that, well, let's catch the criminal, let's punish him, and let that be a deterrent. Is there another way?
You are only dealing with the symptom of a disease.
Exactly.
You are having high fever. You use some crocin or some antibiotics, it brings down the symptom without going to the root cause. What is the root cause? What is the malady in the system? See, unless it's a multi-pronged attack.
So what is the malady? What is your solution?
One is punish the corrupt. Boycott the corrupt. Don't allow them to hold any high office. Bring in some standard of ethics and morality. It has to be top down. Highest levels, people should be men of virtue, men and women of virtue.
But we elect them, they're not. What can you do?
We elect them. But you can't, yes, what is the choice before the people you are talking about?
In a sense,
No,
I mean,
it is,
you're talking
right.
about the money in
this
Bihar.
People will.
Elected
People will. I'm not talking about a particular person. It's all around, wherever you find. You see, people feel today there is no choice. Is there one group or this group, and very little choice they feel. No, the choice will come. People have, I think they have gone, I think there is not going to be any more tolerance now. Why all this is happening is loss of values, traditional values. Faith in God is the biggest deterrent, from becoming wrong, but people are becoming irreligious. Joint family system was one more factor. Now, because, nobody wanted to do it because it will bring disgrace to the family. It was a rural society, agrarian society, where people belonging to a particular village get convicted. They say, I'm bringing disgrace to the whole family. Now, there is so much of anonymity, people can get convicted anywhere. And also, they are being glorified. So, the wrongdoers are being glorified. See, what is happening today, the rule, a common man thinks, as long as you get to power and as long as you get wealthy, it makes no difference how you are going to be. You are going to be an important man, you will be worshipped, you will get all the titles. It is ultimately not who deserves what, it is the lobbying and what resources you command. You get the awards, you get titles, you get all the benefits.
You mentioned this rural and the small. You were born a farmer.
Yes, I am from a small village, yes.
So, how has that heritage influenced you and impacted your life?
See, by and large, I wouldn't say that all of them in the villages are virtuous, but they have got a sense of, sense of truth, in the sense of truth, I would more, they are not capable of so much hypocrisy as you find in cities. They are also getting affected, is a different matter. Now what's happening is today, either because of wrong policies, and we have destroyed all the forests, again lack of spirituality. Out of greed this generation, we have destroyed half the forests in this country. We don't get timely monsoon rains adequately. Because either one side there's floods, one side there's drought. So agriculture has failed. Thousands of farmers were forced to commit suicide in recent years. Then never before it happened. With the result, mass migration of rural population to cities, converting all cities into slums. This capital city of Delhi alone has nearly 40% of the people living in slums. Imagine if the population goes beyond 50%. The people who are in comfortable position are not going to feel safe. So you see, unless people feel it is essence of spirituality is caring for others. You can't allow one side, prospering, and the other side people, not having even the basic needs. You have to ensure that every citizen in this country gets minimum, facilities of living, food to eat, shelter, basic health facilities, opportunities for literacy and opportunity for doing a job. And even Mahatma Gandhi said, God appears in the form of bread to a man, starving man. You can't preach morals and ethics to the people unless we are able to ensure that no one starves and dies in this country. So this is the land of Gandhi and Buddha. How much of violence we are encouraging in everything. And they are prospering. People who can divide the society and all these things, they are able to get, they get to all important positions. They get the best protection also.
So we'll come back to this conversation.
Yeah.
You're watching a conversation with D.R. Karthikeyan. We'll be right back after a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to a continuing conversation with D.R. Karthikeyan. You've been, there's been such a sort of overwhelming sense of despair that I get from you as to how terrible things are. Are they really that terrible? Isn't there hope? And if there is hope, where is hope?
No, unless we realize the reality of the situation, we won't wake up and set things right. Because most of us in cities, we are in comfort zone and we don't realize what is happening in remote parts of the country, where people have to walk 8 kilometers, 10 kilometers, the women walk for a pot of water. They pay 3 rupees. I get calls from remote villages.
Acknowledged. Things are terrible.
No, but I'm saying
what's next?
Unless, yes, you are here, then you will realize that every rupee, taxpayers' money which is collected, should go back to the purpose for which it is spent. I want to quote only Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. I don't think situation has changed very much today also. How much out of a rupee goes to the beneficiary? So there is something systemic deficiency in this. So we have developed, unfortunately, tolerance for all wrongdoings in this. See, we don't deal with corruption. We allow people to continue forever in positions of authority.
Do you see any strands of possibility and hope?
Things will change because people are not going to tolerate it anymore. I'm telling you, one of the reasons why the extremist movements are able to survive is corruption in the system. Because people in remote villages and those who are suffer at the injustice, economic, social, political injustice at the hands of the authorities, they are helpless, and these people are exploited by these extremist movements also. So, and we have to first ensure justice to the people, but ensure the deprived are taken care of.
Who is the we to ensure this?
We, all of us, we are not in government, but then you create public opinion in the media, focus on these things. There are very, very conscientious people in the parliament, in the government also, but unfortunately they are either silent or they are silenced. So they should, that number should increase more and more. If we don't do it, I can tell you, we are not going to put down all these movements by force alone.
Which movements?
Extremist movements, let us see. Extremist movements. There are a lot of criminals, agree. But also what gives them sustenance is also the sense of grievance in the common man, particularly in villages and other places. And unless the administration should ensure that they get a message, no, things are changing. We are looking after you.
I'm still, I have to say, somewhat confused that we have this sense of despair that you have so eloquently articulated. And yet, we are perceived in many parts of the world as a country that's growing, the country that's developing. We're on the brink of a UN Security Council seat. As Swami Ranganathan and that pointed out, that the stock market is booming. People have more and more consumption. You're president of a magazine called Life Positive that is promoting spirituality. There's an enormous sense of movement, of change, of churning. And shouldn't you be celebrating churning? It is through this process of churning that there will be growth and success and triumph and change.
It's true. Rightly we are celebrating it. But we are focusing only on celebrating because we are in the comfort zone. I am only asking you to divert the attention to a section of the population which is even officially accepted as at least 25 crores living below poverty line. Thousands of children dying out of curable diseases. 1/3 of children of school-going age out of school. They have no access to school. And almost 1/3 of the children being born every day.
So what is this?
No, for that,
I'm still searching. I'm still.
What is to be done? I want you to be aware of these facts. We are stopping with only celebrating all these, the good things of life, which the number of middle class people are growing, the millionaires are growing. My task here is to ensure that please focus your attention also on large sections of the population who have not been able to get the benefit of progress and development in the last 50 years. Lot of development has taken place, as you rightly said, but focus on the attention on those people. Now today, yesterday an American lady has come. She has started an organization called Living Humanity. She wanted to be, please be an honorary advisor to that. And what are you doing? She said there are 26 street children million street children in this country. 26 million street children, I couldn't believe it. They have not seen a father or a mother or a home. They are just born, they exist, they grow in the street.
I think that we may not always experience or be sensitive to the detailing of it, but I think that the overall sense that there is inequity in society, that there are people who suffer. I think there are aspects of religion and the philosophical traditions that see a role for human suffering as a process of evolution. It has been often argued that has been an Indian worldview that has inhibited our development, that has inhibited our progress, because we have seen a virtue in human suffering. There is a whole complex of processes here. As an aspirant yourself, what do you see as the role of human suffering?
See, if you are going to accept that people suffer because of destiny or what they did in the past, then there is no argument against it. I don't believe in it. You see, by sheer neglect of the well-to-do people or the people who agree to serve the people and who are not able to do that, it's not correct. I want more attention to be paid to these people who are distressed, who don't have even basic minimum standards of living.
Do you really feel that there is anybody holding political office
there are
who
many.
needs to go down,
there are many,
who needs to go to the electorate and seek the vote of these very people, who does not claim to believe that? And yet, if what you say is true, why is it that sanitation, issues of public health, of education, the fundamental issues that you have talked about, do not figure in the discourse of our elections? Why do you think that happens?
There's public apathy, and then the affected people not being aware of they're entitled for a better existence in this society, and many of them feeling it is their fate to suffer. But fortunately, there is one good development is taking place. I'm not talking about religion. I'm a deeply religious person, but I've gone to Kailas Mansarovar. I've also gone to Jerusalem. I believe in respecting. I'm a devout Hindu. I respect all the religions.
That's what I've been waiting for. This good development. What is the good development? What is the light that you see?
Is the spiritual masters, instead of confining themselves only to temples and mutts, I find increasingly coming forward to show their concern for the deprived people. I don't want to mention one organization because that means I'm not recognizing their role by the others. Many spiritual masters have come forward. First time going to the villages, village rejuvenation programs. They adopt villages. Many youngsters coming out of IIT, IIM, they give up their lucrative jobs and coming and joining the organizations. I asked them why. They said, when we go and transform the lives of these people, that gives us more satisfaction than the lakhs of rupees we get out of these multinational corporations. That is taking place. At that level, I can tell you, there is a positive side. Last few years, it is spreading very fast. They are not propagating any religion. They are spreading spiritual values, housing, hygiene, education, health. These are the areas being focused by many people.
As someone who feels so passionately about the suffering and the predicaments of the common the man in India, what do you see as your personal aspiration, your personal contribution, now that you're through the processes, that part of your life where you had a job, there was an element of livelihood, and you were investigating criminals. How is your life at this stage unfolding?
You're talking about criminal. I want to tell you also, in my experience, many of the crimes are committed out of necessity, poverty. Not everybody wants to lead a life of crime. Most of them won't if there's a choice. Some are, okay, fine. Same with even the fallen women. We are talking about prostitution. 80 to 90% of them are really forced into it because there is no social security in this country. I have studied this, I am telling you. Nobody wants to sell the body and suffer from diseases, and after a few years they get condemned. So what we have to do is, in every society it's possible for them to create, that's what, when I go around and talk to people, management institutions I am associated with, their graduation ceremony, you are fortunate. Very fortunate if you get into good schools, colleges and management, and all of them get employed. I said, take care of at least one or two less privileged people in the society.
So what is your personal unfolding aspiration at this time in your life?
See, I am involved in many organizations. When they say you come, get associated, I go. I go to remote places also. That's why I could have taken up, any much more prestigious assignments in the government also. One is I never...
How does the personal juxtapose with the organizations you're involved with? Ultimately, it's individuals. So what I'm really seeking is that for a person who's been through this hugely rich life, a reputation for impeccable integrity, credibility, been so successful, associated with organizations, where is that personal journey climaxing, leading, going towards?
As I told you, my time is available for all organizations who want me to be available to them. I do travel continuously, sometimes long hours, because the people who call me, they feel by my being there, it supports their activities. Particularly in, farmers' movements are there, environmental movements are there.
So are you a happy person?
Victims of leprosy, AIDS and things like that. If I go and talk to them, they say my presence helps them. It's a very fulfilling job.
So that is your source of happiness and gratification?
Being useful to others who feel that my presence helps them, and supporting all such activities in my own humble manner. It gives me a lot of satisfaction. Much more needs to be done. Even the focus of my talk is today is to keep on celebrating all the successes of life, no doubt. But I only wanted to utilize my time in this, prestigious show to focus the attention of the viewers to the darker aspect of the society.
So the small oasis on the vast ocean of despair. Thank you very much, sir. This has been a great privilege.
Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed. Thank you.